Hi, Frank.
Hi.
Defending champions against newcomers, of course, to get the Premier League season up and running at the Emirates. You just said there it couldn't be a harder start. You also said earlier many will expect you to lose. Could this actually be the perfect opportunity to lay down an early marker, show the league what you're all about, regardless of the result, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I want to show in our performance and how we approach the game that we're not come into it in any form of fear. We respect Arsenal greatly. We should do, because of what they've achieved and the squad that they've built and the manager. Like, these are all things to respect, but it doesn't mean you play with too much respect where you're passive. So I want to see that from the team in terms of our performance. I don't think people would judge us too much on one game and go what that might mean for our season, because they're winning at Arsenal or losing at Arsenal. Those things are not going to define our season. Consistency over the course will do, but it will give us a good feeling to show the team that played with so much spirit and energy and quality last year, it can go up and show itself at this level. So I am absolutely focused on our performance against Arsenal, no matter what results will come as a consequence of performance. But I want us to go with a mentality to approach the game in the right way, and can we hopefully show that we're a good team that want to do something this year.
Sure, on that, I mean, we've seen some newly promoted teams, I guess, persevere with the same style that proved so successful at championship level, but it hasn't always translated so well in the Premier League. How do you strike that balance between maintaining your identity while also adapting to the challenges that the Premier League will no doubt be bringing?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's ever translated to the Premier League, and I think that shows you the gap. So I think as a coach, and between myself and the staff, we have to show our adaptability. We have to show our understanding of different challenges of different games, different opposition, different individuals, a higher level of quality individuals. If you want to talk about sort of attacking players, to allow them too much 1v1, too much space, is things that you might not get away with in this league that you may get away with in a championship. So I think we have to have clear strategy to do that, and it may mean that it's in different games we'll have different strategies, but clearly not going to say all of that now, but we're understanding of that.
On that though, you were of course last season's top scorers, you had the tightest defence in the Championship. Just give us a little glimpse of what we can expect from a Premier League Coventry City side.
Well, we were top scorers because we had many ways of scoring goals. We could control the game and score goals. We were controlling it a lot and having a lot of territory and then crossing and scoring goals. We also scored a lot of goals in transition. And now if you look at the Premier League and analyse it, many goals are scored in transition. So the good news is for us is that if we can continue that and improve that, then we'll have opportunity to use that as a strength. The bad news in it is it will be more difficult to do it. So I would rather it remains to be seen what we do than declare it too much, but we must have a confidence that we want to be aggressive in our approach. And I don't mean in a tactical aggressive nature, but we want to be confident in what we do. It's our job to set out the strategy for the boys game by game, and then it'll be for the boys to, as I say, approach things like they own it and they deserve to be here.
Yeah, and the feeling going into last season was that surviving in the Premier League as a newly promoted club was something of a near impossible task, really. But have Sunderland and indeed Leeds kind of changed that mindset heading into this campaign?
Well, in reality, I guess yes, because I think it's easy to be an outside view or a pundit and say those three that went up will go down. They've changed that rhetoric a little bit, but those stories are important for us to analyse, and we've looked a lot at those two specific teams amongst others. You have to firstly look at recruitment and what Sunderland did, and look at Leeds and maybe what Leeds did, and consider that Leeds were a Premier League team 2 years before, so it's different profile for everyone, and we've got our own world and they've got theirs. But to see how they played gives us some inspiration, but it will only be us that manages to make that story for ourselves, and that's obviously over the course of 38 games, but of course we've looked at those stories.
You touched there on recruitment. You've been pretty active in this summer window, bringing in a number of highly rated, experienced players, but for those who were here through the championship journey, how important is it for you that they get the opportunity to show that they have earned their place here too?
They have to show it through training. You know, it's I've spoken a lot about that they deserve to be here and how great they were last year, but in football, once you go away for your summer holidays and come back, it all starts again. So they have to show in training. And part of my job is to be really supportive and work with the players and be close to them, but part of them also is to drive training and say, you need to train at a level to be able to play in the Premier League and show it. And that's a daily thing as well as game day, because for me, they just link into each other. So I love the players, but they also have to show in training they deserve to be in the team. And of course, now that the stakes are up because we're trying to bring in quality to promote that competition.
Finally, for me, I just wonder, what will the key message be that you're putting across to your players moments before they leave that dressing room on Friday night to walk out underneath those bright lights out there?
Well, it will be a mentality message because our preparation and work will be done in terms of our approach to what Arsenal do and what we see in them in a tactical sense. I think I've referenced it already in a couple of my answers, but the last thing I would like to have after a game like Arsenal or any team like this is a regret of our approach and that we didn't give it everything in our own personal way. I think if we can do that as a team, then we will compete in this league and we'll show teams what we are. If we don't do that, we'll be disappointed. So I'll remind the players of that.
Brilliant, all the best.
Thank you. Cheers.
Frank?
Hi, Rob.
Right. Good. We spoke on Friday, and since then you've signed Taiwo Awoniyi and Siddiqui Sharif. Just give us a thumbnail sketch of what you think those two players will bring to your group.
Well, their own qualities. In terms of Taiwo, we know him from his Premier League experience and what he's done at Nottingham Forest. He scored against my team before when I was at Chelsea, and I always felt that he was a threat as an opponent. And when we looked across our recruitment idea, we wanted to bring in some Premier League experience. It's not necessary everywhere, but it's good to have it within the squad. So yeah, power, strength, a player that can hold the ball up, can run behind, things in the Premier League I think are very, very valuable. And I think with Sidi, I think it's he'll be different to Taiwo, but again, the ability to be able to run behind a young, positive move from us as a club because we like to try and develop players. It's been the model here for previous years, but now we're in the Premier League, so those models cost a lot more money. But also if we can work with him to improve him, but he also brings his own attributes. And I never like to just single out that area of the pitch because in the Premier League, everything's important that you get it right. Hence where we've gone through the spine of the team a little bit to try and help the squad. But of course, if you haven't got that threat, if I haven't got those options, which every Premier League teams need at the front of the pitch, it's hard to maintain a threat. So hopefully those boys help with that.
The connection with the fans is enormous. We've talked a lot about that since you've been here. I just wonder, going into the Premier League with the advent of VAR now, it's been called various things like a mood hoover, a joy killer, where there isn't that spontaneity. Since you were last managing in the Premier League, obviously with Everton and Chelsea, it's moved on a little bit, hasn't it? I think VAR, and they've tried to speed things up. We've got the automated offsides that we saw in the World Cup now. Overall, it's clearly here to stay, so there's no point slagging it off necessarily, but what's your view of VAR and your message to the fans and having to get used to it, because we've only experienced it once in the FA Cup semi-final when Victor Torp's goal right at the end of added time.
Bad experience.
So anyway, that's my point.
Yeah, I think it was for me a positive to have no VAR in the Championship last year, but I would say against that, that's probably our, if anyone is the same way inclined, nostalgia towards the great moment of scoring a goal, checking the linesman and knowing it's a goal. So once we're now beyond that, and the Championship can continue to have the conversation, I saw how Webb said that it should and maybe will come to the Championship. But now we know that the rules are different, that we have this VAR. I think where the stakes are so high in the Premier League, there are elements of VAR which are very good. The clear-cut offside, I think, is very good and being faster now than what it was probably when I was last here. Hopefully the referees and the VAR as such is always trying to improve itself to make it really compatible with the game. And I think there are steps that they're trying to make by the sounds of it. We just have to understand that it's there. And we have to understand what differences that means. And we've spoken to the players. We had our usual meeting with the referees explaining the rules, the new rules. We've spoken to the players, and as for the fans, I don't need to tell the fans anything. They'll be frustrated when it goes against you, and it's brilliant when it goes for you. But it's the life we're living now. But I wouldn't take it any other way because we're here. And
you'll retain that connection going up to the fans after the games. Will the fist pump still be there like last season when you hopefully win lots of games this season as well?
Well, let's see if and when we win a game. Let's see.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be clever or
No. I know you.
And just on personnel, Ephraim Mason Clark and Jack Rodoni weren't around for the Monaco game. Are they any closer to being involved against Arsenal?
They're in contention for Arsenal. They're in contention. Hadji Wright won't be available for the Arsenal game, and he won't be available for a little while, unfortunately. He's got a fairly serious quad injury, which is disappointing for Hadji and for us.
Are you able to put more of a time frame on that? Or not?
It's certainly going to be a number of weeks. It could be anything up to 12 weeks.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Brian?
Frank, you excited about what it would mean for you personally back in the Premier League, given the fact it's been 3 years away?
Yeah, I'm excited because I'm pleased that we're here and it's great. You want to work at the top, and the Premier League is the top. But unfortunately, when you live this job, it can take the excitement out unless you win 3 points after a game. You're forever trying to strive to be as good as you can be. So yes, I am generally excited, but there's a lot of work. This week specifically has become reality. You know, pre-season again, as I say, it's very hard to work normally as such because there's so many variables, players in, players out, players there, will they stay, will they go, getting people fit at different levels. So you're really focused on that. So I'm excited generally, but of course very focused on the job.
Just on Tyro, obviously he's only not made that many starts for a couple of seasons. Did you do any sort of extra due diligence into his sort of physical capacity?
Yeah. And to be fair, our usual, but with an understanding of what you said. Of course, that's for us to do, and we have done that absolutely. And I'm not concerned about it. I think sometimes we're trying to bring in players in the Premier League. There's a reason why Tyro leaves Nottingham Forest to come to us. We really like him, and we hope he's going to be great for us. But we're aware of that, and I flip that to more the mental side of Tyro. That's obviously probably frustrated with game time. So I like a player that comes in hungry to play and get his minutes. Of course, medically we have to look after him and prepare him, but I like a player that's coming in wanting to be the man and wanting to play more minutes. So that's great.
Adam?
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
You mentioned just now you looked at other models of teams that had gone up and survived up. Can you explain in any detail who you particularly picked on and what you can learn from, and what you might be trying to adapt into your season coming?
Well, we looked at many teams, not just Sunderland and Leeds, because I think there are some really good stories in the Premier League of teams that have been promoted for a fair few years now that have sustained. And there are teams, I think just off the top of my head, the Brentfords and the Bournemouths, and they've all got their different style of plays and different management and different ways of playing. So I don't think there's an absolute to say about any of them. I think we're all aware of the Champions League teams or the Big Six. It's different. They're working on a different parameter to us in terms of finances, etc. So, of course, we watch them every week. But we really wanted to hone in on those teams that have probably seemingly overachieved to whatever extent. I think it was interesting in terms of recruitment, but tactically also it was interesting in terms of what is the difference between a team that stays up, forget the recruitment, that can stay up, or that goes down, and where are the areas that they're maybe losing the ball, where is the more area of danger to be on the ball, and those sort of tactical things where we want to play. So we want to be an effective team in the league to make sure that we're being as effective as we can with the squad that we have. So without going into too much detail, I think it's giving too much away. It was helpful in shaping some of our tactical ideas, and that is football. Sometimes it's like being humble enough to look around and say, good work done, what does that look like for us, or a version of that. So we tried to do that.
And one of the pieces of good news for the fans is that you're still here for this season, which was, there was some speculation of that. Can you give us any idea as to whether or how much head turning there was between now and the end of last season?
No.
I'm glad I asked.
No, sorry, to give you a blunt question. I'm very, very happy to be here. I've had an amazing 18 months, and now I can really think about the future. I am hopefully a manager or a man that respects the opportunity given to me by the football club, and also respects how I've been taken to by fans, and I enjoy working here every day. So that's it.
That was a good answer.
Thanks very much. Yeah, you got that out of me. Thanks for that.
You mentioned 3 years ago since you were last in managing the Premier League. How has the Premier League changed on and off the pitch?
Well, I'm not sure I've considered it off the pitch so much. I mean,
like the business-wise, how everything that transfer fees.
Yeah. Well, that's clear, right? I think it's changed, and I guess it's a good question because it's one of the interesting things between being a player and transitioning into a manager is that you learn about the other side of the game, as in agents, transfer fees. It's not the most beautiful part of the game in a way, but it is the world we live in. So you got to get with that. So yeah, of course, that makes it probably more difficult to be as active as we wanted to be this window, and I think we've worked pretty well around that. But I know that you look at some of the high transfer fees that are going down, and it's incredible to where the game's got to. But that's it. I'm never going to overthink that one. In terms of the Premier League itself, I think it's harder for a team that's coming up to try and stay in the league, and I think that's because the overall level of the Premier League is stronger. Teams that are now, I've referenced a few now that have managed to get some sustainability in the Premier League and managed to rebuild their squads year in, year out, are stronger all round, in my opinion. Certainly from many years ago, even back end of my career, now you see teams that every team's going to give you a really difficult problems and give you a challenging match. In terms of the style of play, I think we're seeing a lot of the game be really contested in the middle of the park and maybe slowed down at times because teams are so tactically trying to nullify each other in the middle of the park. And football will forever be very, very important in the both of the boxes, the business ends of the pitch. So how clinical can you be at the top end and how good can you be at the bottom end to negate the huge amount of talent that's in the Premier League? So those are all things that we've looked at, and it's been interesting for me because I know the Premier League very well. You work in the Championship bubble and you really focus on that, and that's its own entity, which is great entertainment and great to work in. And then I spent a lot of time over the summer looking at the Premier League to get my head absolutely back onto what little things have changed, as you said. So we've seen hopefully quite a lot, and hopefully we're ready to deal with that.
How much do you think you've changed since that second spell at Chelsea, since you've arrived at Coventry? So, because you obviously improved. What's been different?
Yeah,
as a manager?
the second spell at Chelsea wasn't great for me for a PR point. When you look at it, but it was great for me from a personal point of view because I've referenced it before, and I definitely want to talk about Chelsea too much here because it's my club to a big extent because of the career I had there, and I will always have a big place for them. But going back there was an understanding of situations at a football club where the balance isn't right, the mentality isn't right, and all those things, the little things that have to be right, and standards and all those things. So I had a good learning there of what that is, and it was very difficult in a short period of time to make any impact there, but I could go away and sort of see that. I kind of knew it anyway, but I lived it for 7 weeks there. And since then, probably I'll just reflect back on my whole managerial career and say, I try and be better every day at what I do. I try and be better at the tactical side, try and be clearer with the players in any way possible I can, and also try and get my life balance to be as good as it can be. And that's a challenge. We can all pretend that we are robots, but in the modern day it's hard to be that robot and not see or hear anything. But having been through the challenges for good and for bad in my managerial career, I think it puts me in a better spot to deal with. Don't get too high, don't get too low, continue to focus on your job, and I'm better at that than I was previously.
And finally for me, you speak on that sort of a really good documentary, Jose Mourinho. I was just wondering whether he's been in touch ahead of the start of the season. We've spoken. Obviously, he's got a new club as well.
Yeah, we were in touch when we got promoted. He very nicely sent me some nice messages at the time. Same when he got the job at Real Madrid, and then we spoke. I referenced this yesterday, so I think it's been out there. But we spoke about a certain player that he'd worked with before, and I was just asking for a reference on a player to remain private. And he gave me a good reference as I expected, and we wished each other well. And I also said that the documentary's great, and it was great sitting through it and taking back all those memories of old good times. And even though I know Jose very well and he had a huge impact on my career, it was quite inspiring to go back over it and realise why and how he made that impact on me personally. And in my job, little things like that are great just to remember. And remember, sometimes you can get caught up in all the tactics and the detail and the detail and the detail, and you go over these things. You normally remember the impact of what somebody said to you or how they acted around you to make you feel like you could do your job better. And Jose did that for me, so it reminded me that that's the main important thing in my role as well.
Thanks, Charlie. Son?
Hi, Fred.
Hi.
Coming on to Friday's opponents, Arsenal, there was a strong focus on them last season from set pieces because of how strong they were from them. I'm just wondering, has there been extra attention from your crew in the build-up?
Yeah, we're always attentive on set pieces, but as I said, to talk about adapting to levels going up and to the opposition and what they do, Arsenal have proved themselves to be the best in the world at set pieces, and very, very strong at both ends. So we have given that firm detail, to the players.
And another player that joined the club, Gus Hamer, as well, obviously played for this club before. Obviously you wasn't here before that, but I'm just wondering what he's been like and what he's given to the group during his first few days back at the club.
Yeah, been very good. we brought Gus in. It was a nice added bonus that he's been here before, and he's a fan's favourite and a hero to the fans. We felt that in his first appearance when he came on last week. But more than that, he's a good player, and he offers us something different from what we have. And my view was, having known Gus's history here and know the references of the player that he is, but more for me, going against him at Sheffield United, I felt he was the most difficult playmaker to play against in the Championship. Would always find forward passes, dangerous passes, get shots away and all those things. And for me at this level, then those sort of things are great things to have. Has Premier League experience, has a personality about him that we have no fear of going to the Premier League. So he's fitted in very well with us again, and is a strength to us in the squad.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Hi Frank. Just when you say about studying those teams that have kind of stepped up and thrived, I suppose, in the Premier League, how big a factor is physicality and kind of that power, that side of things? Is that a significant sort of area where you've looked at and thought this is where we maybe need to improve?
Yeah, I felt that before studying anybody. And when I say I'm studying, I want to look like we're trying to impersonate anybody as a team. We've just looked at to see interesting parts of how teams are playing and what's effective and what isn't. But before that, and having studied some of those teams to see how they've recruited and see what they've done, physicality is a big part of what you need to compete in this league. I think there is a difference from Championship to Premier League in those terms. Especially the type of team that we feel we may have to be, and you have to be able to compete at a physical level to be successful in this league. And you have to have the pure capacity to do so, whether that is in terms of running, physicality, in terms of size now with the nature of set pieces, is something that we took very seriously in our recruitment.
How much has that changed? Sort of, I don't know, you will look at the numbers and see the running stats and the data, distances, all that side of things. How much has that changed even in the last few years, would you say?
Yeah, they don't relate necessarily to what you might expect. When I say that, I'm not saying that the numbers have shot up. In some areas they have. In some areas there's less in play time, which sort of affects the numbers of total distance and things like that in a game. But I would say I've played at a high level. I played in teams that were really, really physically strong. I look left and I look right, and it's 6'2" and 6'2" and high quality, and it's helpful, and it always will be. But I think in the modern game, I think it remains very helpful to be able to compete at that level. I like my teams to be like that, and the boys did great last year, as I say. But to take on the level that we've got coming, we have to be able to compete physically, which means all our training, all our preparation, as well as the recruitment I've spoken about, needs to be spot on to be able to compete, because it's a step up for some of our boys, and the boys that come in have to understand that as well, because a fair bit of our recruitment has come from players that haven't played in the English league, let alone the Premier League, so they'll have to understand that.
Just lastly, if I can, how do you kind of strike that balance between, obviously you want to recruit, you want to improve, but not kind of totally get rid of what made you so successful last year in terms of momentum, that side of things?
Well, we've tried to do that, and I think we have done that, because we've retained, at this point, all of our squad, bar Jamie Allen, who left on a free transfer, is out of contract with us. So whether some parts of that may change over the next couple of weeks remains to be seen, but we've kept the balance of the squad. I want to keep the spirit of the squad. I don't want to kill the spirit of the squad, because it was a huge part of what we do and we'll need it. But also we try to add the quality and keep that right, so hopefully we've done that.